Many IELTS students use direct or reported speech in their writing as well as speaking. Especially those who prepare for the general training module would find it much more common when they write a letter in Task 1. Then, do you know the proper punctuation and tenses when you use direct speech or reported speech? Look at these two pairs of examples and pick the right one in each pair. Example 1. The shopkeeper said, "I'll call you in a few days." "I'll call you in a few days," said the shopkeeper. Example 2. The shopkeeper said he'll call me in a few days. The shopkeeper said he would call me in a few days. The first pair shows examples of direct speech, and the second pair shows examples of reported speech. In the first example, the first sentence is right, as in the second sentence, the quoted speech should be followed by a comma, not a full stop. In the second pair, the second sentence is right, as the first sentence has will, not would, when the speech happened in the past and quoted in a later time. Let's find more about direct and reported speech. The thing that you need to be careful with when using direct speech is punctuation. When it comes to reported speech, the most important part you should pay attention to is the tenses. Let's have a look at the direct speech first. Simply speaking, there are a few important punctuation rules regarding direct speech. Have a look at this example first. He said, "She'll help you." Now, let's have a look at the rules. Use quotation marks to show the exact words being quoted. The first word of the quoted speech should begin with a capital letter. The quoted speech should be separated from the rest of the sentence by a comma. The quoted speech should end with an exclamation mark, question mark, a full stop, or a comma when the sentence isn't finished. Punctuation marks are placed inside the quotation marks. You can use any suitable reporting verbs like say, ask, tell, advise, suggest, and insist. But for the purpose of explaining punctuation marks, I'll only use say to simplify things for you. In direct speech, you can either have the quoted speech in the beginning of your sentence or in the middle of the sentence. "The library closes at 11 p.m., said the teacher." The teacher said the library closes at 11 p.m. Regardless, you must follow the basic rules of punctuation. Let's see if these two sentences follow all the rules. First, they both use quotation marks to show the exact words being quoted. Second, the first word of the quoted speech begins with a capital letter in both examples. Third, the quoted speech is separated from the rest of the sentence by a comma. Fourth, the quoted speech ends with a full stop in the second example and with a comma in the first example, as the sentence isn't finished. Lastly, in both examples, punctuation marks are placed inside the quotation marks. So, you can conclude that both examples keep the punctuation rules of direct speech. Next, I'm going to explain about reported speech. In reported speech, you need to focus on the correct use of tenses. If the reporting verb is in the past tense, which is most common in IELTS writing answers, you need to change the verb of the reported speech. I'm only dealing with the reporting verb in the past tense, as this is the single most relevant use of reported speech in the IELTS exam. For example, if the direct speech was, "I play the violin," In reported speech, it should be he said he played the violin. It doesn't matter what tense the verb was originally in the direct speech. You need to change the verb form. Let's take a look at these examples in different tenses. I'll come to the party tomorrow. He said he would come to the party the next day. I'll be flying to New York by then. He said he would be flying to New York by that time. I love puppies. He said he loved puppies. I'm studying now. He said he was studying at the time. I finished homework. He said he'd finished homework. I've been jogging. He said he'd been jogging. I left school yesterday. He said he'd left school the day before. I was having a shower then. He said he'd been having a shower at that time. I had already finished the task when you called me. He said he had already finished the task when I called him. As you can see, you have to change the tense of the reported speech to the past, with the exception of the past perfect, which you cannot change to the past anymore. Please note that you sometimes need to change other words to make the sentences make sense. When you have a question to quote, use ask as a reporting verb, and when you have an order to quote, use tell as in these examples. What is your name? He asked what my name was. Do you have time? He asked if I had time. Finish your work by tonight. He told me to finish my work by that night. Bring more paper here. He told me to bring more paper there. Please note, when quoting questions, make sure you change the order of the subject and the verb as well as the tense. If the question is a yes or a no question starting with do, add if in the beginning of the reported speech. It seems a little complicated to use reported speech properly. However, it'll become much easier with practice. Read the quoted sentences and change them into direct speech and reported speech as in the example. For both direct and reported speech, use a reporting verb say in the past tense. That is, he said.